What's going on, everybody? It's Cody Solberg here. I am a fishing enthusiast here on YouTube. Today we're going to be talking about the Garmin Livescope unit and how you can use it to help you catch more fish while you're out ice fishing. You want to learn the settings, you want to learn how to take this out to the lake, use it to execute, and get down and dirty to catch some fish. So today we're gonna walk through the settings that I use on my unit. I'm gonna show you guys, I'm on a brand new lake today that I've actually never fished before. I'm gonna show you guys how I use this unit to basically break down water and find fish just a little bit faster when you're out there on those new lakes. So I got the Garmin Livescope with me here today. As you can tell, I have this on a Summit shuttle. Basically got the LVS 32. Right now there is an LVS 34. That transducer right now is actually on my boat. So I use the LVS 34 for my boat, and I actually still have this LVS 32 for ice fishing. We have a GPS Map XS. This is just a 9-inch version of that. And the reason why I like using this unit here is because I can actually screen record everything that's going on the screen for you guys. I used to run a 9-inch Echo Map, and since then this year I have upgraded to this GPS Map, basically only for that main reason of being able to screen record. So this is my setup. I run that with an 18 amp hour lithium amped outdoors battery. I got that down there. I'm not sponsored by any of these companies, by the way. I am basically giving you my honest opinion on the gear that I am using right here, right now, to catch some fish. So let's go ahead, drill some holes, find out where these fish are, and show you guys how to use Garmin Livescope out on the ice to catch yourself some fish. All right, we're gonna start by drilling a hole here in the ice. Let's do that. There's our hole. That's the first step. So, like I said, we're on a brand new lake here. We're fishing. We're trying to find some fish. And I'm gonna go ahead and screen record this directly to my phone so you guys can see what is happening here. So right now, I have my Garmin unit set to the down mode. So I'm in 16 feet of water right now, so the transducer is automatically picking the best beam angle for me, which is about 10 feet on each side. So right now, as you can tell, there's nothing underneath us, which is perfect. You know, that means that we actually have to search for these fish. So now we're gonna kind of break down this unit a little bit more. You can see one fish kind of on the bottom there, just coming in there. Actually, it looks like there might be a couple there now. What I want to show you guys is the forward-facing mode on this unit. So all I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring the menu up here, and if I slide this up, I hit the menu button, I can go to sonar setup. If I click on installation, orientation, and switch this to forward mode, you can tell now I am scanning 55 feet out to the left of me here, because that's the way my transducer is pointing. So if you actually look at your transducer, this is gonna be the front side of your transducer. So when you're scanning, whichever way this tip of the transducer is pointing is gonna be the direction that you're scanning. I always try to line that point up with the handle of my Summit stick here, just so I know which way the transducer is pointing without having to actually look at the transducer itself. So right now we're pointing to the left, and as you can see, we're marking some fish out on the left-hand side of me here, and there's actually a bigger mark out about 50 feet. That could possibly be a pike out there, maybe a bass. But the cool thing about this is I can actually extend this length. So right now it's at 60 feet. I can push it out as far as I want to. Here you can see we're at 100 feet right now, and you can tell 80 to 90 feet that way, there's actually a jumbo school of fish. But let's go ahead and turn this transducer once and see just how big that school is. So if we go ahead and turn that transducer just even a couple of inches here, you can tell that that school is absolutely massive. So now that we are out here, we have found the fish. We drilled one hole. Keep in mind, we have drilled one hole. We have found the fish. They're about 70 to 80 feet away from us. All we have to do is go punch a hole over there. We can actually put this back into down view, and we can begin fishing. And if those fish start to move again, we'll just repeat this process to stay on top of that school. All right, so we got a hole punched. I'll just go ahead, just for the precaution of it, I'll drill a couple more holes just in case I wasn't close enough. So a lot of times when you're finding these big schools of fish, if you just want to go ahead and punch, you know, a circle of holes right away, basically to keep you on top of that school that you're going to be fishing, it's going to make it that much easier and that much quicker for you to hole hop and stay on top of that school itself. So let's walk this over there. I'm going to grab a rod, we'll walk this over there and see if we can't catch some of these fish. All right, so now all we are going to do is we're actually going to switch this down mode again. So we're going to go to menu, we'll go to sonar setup, installation, orientation, and we'll switch that down. and look at all of those fish. So now that we have found the fish, we're on top of the fish, we can now begin fishing. Go ahead, turn my GoPro on for you guys too. And this is what we're using today. This is just a little tungsten jig with a Hawg Pores pink minnow plastic on there from Randy Burton over in Merrill, Wisconsin. You guys are looking for some ice plastics, he's your guy. But we're gonna drop down here. You can tell a lot of these marks are nice and suspended. Those are letting us know that they are probably crappies. And we got one coming up right away. Just wanna be able to turn my transducer here. I'm actually gonna turn the gain up so I can see my jig. There, you guys can now see my jig. And we have a fish right on top of it, way up at 8 feet there. And I probably pulled it out of his mouth a little bit there before. So we're gonna, okay, we got 3 racing for us. That one hit it. You guys were able to watch that. So on a typical sonar, I never would have known that this fish was coming out of nowhere, really. He came from about 4 or 5 feet to the left there, and I was able to put this fish up on the ice. So we're gonna go ahead, show you that, guys, that fish. That's what's down there. That's what we were able to mark. It's not a tank. There's definitely some bigger marks down there. You can tell just by looking at some of the marks. Some of them look bigger than the others. And the cool thing with the Livescope unit here is you can actually, if you want to, pull this away from the smaller marks and just wait for the bigger marks to hit. So there was a bigger mark here coming, and they're just sucking on it. You can feel them just sucking on it. There you can see my jig again. We're gonna go right above this big mark. Oh, and he's coming. And he smoked it. He freaking smoked it, and that's a better fish. It's a little bigger than the last one we just caught. And these fish are absolutely fired up. This is how quickly you can get on fish with Garmin Livescope. Now, all I'd have to do, honestly, is probably sit here for the next 10 minutes and catch a couple of fish to take home. All of these fish are getting a free pass today, so I'm gonna send this guy back. I've been getting a lot of questions about the settings on this unit, so that's why I decided to basically do this video for you guys. Especially last year, you guys had a lot of questions on basically the settings that I use. To be completely honest with you, I keep it very simple. The auto feature on this unit is actually stout. It's very good. I pretty much use auto settings on almost everything that I have on this unit. You can see that I have my gain at 74%. Your gain is just something that you're gonna have to play around with when you get out on the lake. If you got a very hard bottom, you're probably gonna wanna turn your gain down just a little bit so you don't get so much interference bouncing off the bottom back up to the transducer. Right now for the lake that we're on, you can tell it's kind of a little bit of a softer bottom. So I'm able to keep my gain a little bit higher without getting all that interference or that garbage that you would see on your screen if it was like a harder rock bottom. So I'm gonna keep my gain at 74%, but if we go ahead and bring the menu up here, I can go to the menu and just show you. So the transmit is on. Obviously, transmit is the operation that the sonar is going to be relaying back to your system. So if transmit is not on, you're not gonna have any picture. If I turn that off, basically I'd lose the connection to my transducer itself. So that has to be on. But then if we go into sonar setup, you can see there's an appearance button here. And the color scheme that I am using right now is actually a color scheme that came out with one of the updates this past year. I'm using the moss color scheme on this unit here. I'm only using this color scheme because I think it really pops. It really looks the best. And when you're fishing around structure, obviously, this basin that we're in right now doesn't have any structure in it, but when you're fishing around any type of down trees, maybe big boulders or anything like that, you're actually able to see a more of a contour around those physical features that are down in the water that kind of allow you to pick out fish off of that structure just a little bit easier. So that target separation from the structure that you're fishing and the actual fish, I feel like is just a little bit better with that moss color scheme. Along with the color scheme, you can see that we're gonna go right down to the color gain. And I was just playing around with this because I actually had mine set on default, but you can actually raise and lower this. And what that's gonna do is really make that hard structure or those fish actually pop just a little bit more. In my opinion, keeping that on default is definitely good enough. As you can tell, the crappies that we're marking on the screen right now are definitely popping good enough. You don't want too much exposure on the structure or the bottom that you're fishing because you don't want that exposure to cover up any of the fish that are hiding on that piece of structure. So keeping it on default is just kind of what I do, especially with my ice units. I just want to keep it simple. So I always keep my color gain on default. If we back up just a little bit here, you can see trails. I keep that off only because I don't like all the clutter basically on my graph, so I always keep the trails off. But basically what trails is, if we turn that on, we can go to fast, medium, or slow. So if we go to fast, if I actually drop my jig down here, you guys might be able to see it. Basically what's gonna happen is there'll be a little trail that you'll see. You can see that red trail that you're seeing behind my jig there. That's basically what that is. And honestly, I don't keep it on there because I think it's just more clutter on the screen that I don't need. I like to be able to just see my jig and see the fish. And right now we got a fish coming up to us and we caught him. It feels tiny. So that's basically what trails is. I keep that off. You can choose to keep that on or off, whatever you'd like to do. Bottom fill, I keep that off, but if you turn the bottom fill off, it'll basically show you what the bottom actually is. And then you're able to see those marks that are on the bottom just a little bit easier. But with the color default and the color gain that I have set on this transducer, I can see all those fish just as good without bottom fill on. So I just keep that off. We can go to layout. Layout's basically just the grid overlay. You can turn that on or off. Honestly, it all depends on personal preference. I had it on just there just because this unit is actually new to me. Normally I do keep that off just because those grid lines do cause a little bit of just clutter on your screen that you don't need. But if you are trying to pick out bigger fish or anything like that, having those grid lines on there can be a little nicer just to kind of tell which fish are bigger and which ones are smaller. Scroll history and all that stuff is definitely not stuff that you need. On-screen controls, you can hide those if you want. I like to have that on only because I can adjust my gain a lot quicker without actually having to go into the settings to adjust those features. So I keep that on. Going down to noise reject, I always keep that on high. That's just gonna get rid of any of that noise. If we turn that off, you can see you just have a lot more weird stuff going on, interference going on. So I always like to keep that on high just to keep that screen nice and clean. TVG, I always keep TVG on low. Honestly, the TVG doesn't affect too much. It's just gonna show you more or less. And keeping that on low, I have found that it actually shows you more, so that's where I keep that setting. Overlay data is like your depths, your water temps, and stuff like that. I like to keep that stuff on because that sometimes is good stuff to know. Your unit voltage is definitely something that you want to have on, especially if you have this on your boat. Speed, time of day, that's all stuff that you can play with and have on top of your screen if you desire to have those options on there. And then installation, and this is basically where you're gonna be able to find that orientation of the transducer, install depth, and some of the other things that you actually don't need to make your Livescope really look any better. So that is basically my settings and how I run this thing in a nutshell. As you can tell, there's a ton of fish down there again. Do it. This one could be better. Yep, this one will do it. Get them up the hole here. This is the one we are gonna end the day on. There's definitely bigger crappies than this in there, but this has just been an absolute banger of about 30 minutes here on the lake. And it's all thanks to Garmin Livescope. So awesome little flurry of fish here. As you can tell, I'm still marking fish, so I could stay here and pound on fish probably for the next couple of hours if I really wanted to. But I really just wanted to show you guys how I break down new lakes with Livescope and how I really use Livescope to my advantage while I'm out there on the ice, or even open water for that matter. It just cuts down on the time of searching for fish. Now, it won't always necessarily help you catch the fish. Sometimes you can find schools of fish like this and still struggle to catch them, but being able to find them a lot faster is gonna give you that much more confidence going in to catching some of these fish. So I'm gonna go ahead, let this guy go. We're gonna go ahead, pack everything up, and get out of here and head on over to the next lake. If you guys like this video, you wanna see more ice fishing videos like this in the future, definitely go down and hit that subscribe button down below. We're gonna be doing all sorts of ice content here. I can't thank you guys enough for clicking on this video and giving it a watch. So thank you again. As always, keep living your dreams, and we'll catch you on the next video. Peace.